the idea that Lord of the Rings is supposed to have taken place in like the real world in ancient times, you know?
Right.
Um, and you
When
know,
they built Stonehenge.
and Tolkien describes like, you know, the way that the continents have shifted. So what's described as Middle Earth, you know, a little bit of tectonic plate, continental drift, and eventually it turns into the map of Europe or something.
Yeah.
And so he just, you assume that Lord of the Rings takes place in the past, but we sometimes should stop and ask ourselves, what did this past look like, or how did the ethnographic realities described in the Lord of the Rings segue into our own?
Yeah.
Increasingly, it seems like anthropologists are beginning to admit that, hey, maybe this Tolkien fellow was onto something when he described the hominid, humanoid, or hobbit like nature of remote antiquity. Anthropologists used to think that basically, like, when modern humans, when Homo sapiens entered the scene, they quickly drove out every other competing group. So there was never really any overlap between the Homo sapiens, modern man, and other hominids like that preceded them. And
Right.
based on new fossil and especially genetic evidence, a lot of anthropologists are now saying that the past was much more like Lord of the Rings in the sense that there.
I think that is just wonderful.
I know
think that
where you actually had like hobbit-like creatures. They actually call these new Homo. I think it's called Homo. I think it's called Homo floresiensis, nicknamed the Hobbit. Incredibly, lived on these islands about 100,000 years ago, basically.
That's not that far. That's not that. I mean,
It's not that long ago.
No.
And then there's the Cro-Magnon and the Neanderthal, who were more kind of robust, like a dwarf almost, like kind of stockier and shorter and stockier. So you basically had just a Lord of the Rings world where all these species lived on the planet simultaneously and interacted with each other. So this just kind of looks like the Fellowship.
Tolkien had it right.
He knew, yeah, this is like the Fellowship right here, bro.
There you go.
and the you know the island where the hobbits mainly live?
Numenor?
It's this island or these islands, which is like Indonesia. So yeah, look at that island.
Oh,
dude,
a little bit.
You were right.
Dang.
Doesn't that look like Numenor, bro?
I mean, a little bit. I mean, it's
a little bit.
I mean,
but with a little bit of adjustment for the fact that Numenor sunk, and now it's like a little bit more sunk.
That's pretty awesome, man.
We're the first people to point this out.
Perfect. Let's get ahead of this. We're ahead of the curve. Let's. So
anyway, I just
that's like really interesting. Like I said, I love stuff like this where it's like I love you know what I love? I love when like there's like a known, like this is what we've believed for like 150 years or so, and then someone comes along, it's like, oh well, looks like we were wrong. You know
no, I know exactly what you mean. No, actually, I was in Tanzania not too long ago and found like the place where like the leaky skeleton was found. And it all just seemed very like speculative. Like you'd think like we grew up with the science of like, you know,
we grew up Pluto was a planet, man. And
right, we grew up with Pluto as a planet and all these other things. And when new information comes out, we're like, oh man, you mean there was a time that took place over 100,000 years where all these different hominid races that were totally different and different species almost could like actually get together and have armies and battles and
smoke tobacco
and sometimes mate, because there's actually, you know, a little bit of genetic information from some of these other hominid species like the Neanderthal.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of groups in the modern world have some Neanderthal DNA.
Wow.
So, you know, we're like
That's
dwarves.
Crazy.
We're like a bit a hobbit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm part.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Well, you know.
Excellent.
Oh yeah, and so one more thing. This is like a reconstruction of what those hobbit creatures might have looked like. So feast your eyes on Frodo Baggins, my friend.
Feast your eyes on the Harfoots, everybody.
Can you imagine? Okay. Anyway, that's
That's like that is just. I mean, can you imagine that? Can you imagine like being out
out
because
just out
like
walking
man,
around and you see something
out
like
walking
that.
around, it's like it's like oh like yeah, it just
Actually, it looks like it could be a golem. I mean, if you think
a
about
little
it,
bit,
like
yeah.
Gollum is a hobbit, and guy could be like my precious.
Yes,
That's
looking for
creepy.
like
It's like looking
yeah,
for his
a
precious.
ring, a
Yeah.
ring.